All right, well, it's been a long hiatus, well, a few short months, and we want to welcome the audience back to the Luki and Shamash show. We have a very special episode today, Tales of Tel Keppe, a series on our community and who we are. My name is Aluki.
And I'm Shamash.
And even more special for this is we wanted to bring other community leaders that are Tel Keppnaye to join us in this conversation. So we have our great friend Paul Leah, who's an awesome comedian. We got to enjoy his show here in Detroit, a couple months ago?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and it was pretty funny. So if you haven't seen his content, check him out. And then I just want to say thank you to Anthony Tomar, our second guest, we are currently at his studio for keeping up with the Chaldeans. And Anthony has done, how many episodes have you done?
210, 20?
Wow.
Yeah.
You've been here the whole time?
Most of it.
Damn. So you're Chaldean now?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
He's trans-Chaldean.
Yeah. He's like, you mean I'm Assyrian?
Yeah, right.
Well, I feel like I'm with my legal team, so thank you guys for representing me.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And you're actually part of Zahonaye, aren't you?
Yeah, my mom is from Zahu and my dad is from Tel Keppe.
And you have yet to go back to the homeland, right?
I have not yet.
Yeah.
I'm not yet, but I definitely plan on doing it soon. I want to travel like a camera team. I want to take my mom. I just want to like really document this journey and just, I think, you got to go back, bro. Something that, like, my heart's telling me I have to go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We found that our identity has made a lot more sense when you go back home. You see the villages that our parents grew up in, and you see the hospitality, and you understand why your parents are the way they are, and why your cousins are the way they are, and why everything kind of works out the way it does in our community. And it inspires you to be more participating in the community and learn more about the culture. And that's kind of the purpose of this discussion here today, is to share a lot about what Alex and I have researched and about this book written by an incredible author. And I think you want to open up and share this quote from the book, yeah?
Well, yeah, first, I've discovered a footnote as a lawyer. I read a lot of footnotes, and I found a footnote from my author Yousif Hermiz Jammo, who wrote a book called The Works of Nineveh and the History of Tel Keppe. It was written in 1937. In Arabic, it's Athar Ninwe o Tarikh Tel Keppe. And there was a 1993 reprint that I discovered at the University of Chicago. I couldn't check it out, so I went to Chicago, the university library, and literally took a picture of every page.
Okay.
And translated it from Arabic to English, and then realized that there was a 1937 original copy that I was able to get somebody in Iraq to find it and send it over to me.
Oh, wow.
And what's really been odd is that this book is not in any of our churches. Nobody has it, and it just makes you wonder why, like, a book like this is called History of Tel Keppe is not readily available. So kind of today I wanted to just provide a lot of the information that's in this book, quotes that really were inspirational. And when I translated this book, the first quote I read was an inscription from the author, Yousif Hermiz Jammo, and it says, "To the noble youth, sons of the city of Tel Keppe, the pride of the Christian cities in Iraq, to those who are expatriated in the Iraqi country and countries far from their birthplace and the birthplace of their fathers, to those who are still proud of their origin and the language of their fathers and grandfathers, to those who raise the capital of their nation high with their literature, knowledge, generosity of morals and integrity, to those who are proud of their lineage and are not satisfied with any alternative, to those who are bound by kinship, brotherhood, and love for the people of their hometown, whether at home or abroad, I dedicate this book of mine, hoping that it will gain acceptance and approval from them." And I thought that this quote was super inspirational, especially after coming back from Iraq.
Yeah.
And when you go to Iraq and you go to the homeland and you see Tel Keppe, you come back with like a profound change. Like, you're so much more culturally inspired, and especially as an attorney, I like to help people out, and helping our community understand who we are is very important to me as well. And this author is actually the father of famous Bishop Sarhad Jammo, who actually almost became patriarch, was the first U.S. Western Diocese bishop in the St. Peter Diocese.
He also built St. Joseph Church, designed and built St. Joseph, and he was the priest of that diocese for a while.
Where's St. Joseph Church?
Troy.
It's
Oh,
Big
here.
Beaver and DeQuinder, I
Yeah,
think.
Troy.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
talking about here in Michigan.
Yeah,
He was originally, so his son, the author of Bishop Jammo, was originally a priest at St. Joseph, and then when he became bishop, he went to the new Western Diocese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the book starts off sharing a lot about the history of Tel Keppe, and through the oral histories passed down from one generation to the next, the community maintains a living connection to its past, ensuring that the deeds of its heroes are never forgotten. Clerics in Tel Keppe have historically been both spiritual leaders and community organizers central to the governance of the community. Community leaders, often emerging from prominent families or religious backgrounds, wielded significant influence over social norms and community decisions. Their leadership was crucial in navigating the community through both prosperity and periods of strife, ensuring the survival and continuity of Tel Keppe's heritage. And what we find important about this book is that obviously somebody took great care and diligence to create something like this and memorialize it in history. And it also happens to be the father of a bishop. And it was so puzzling to us. One, because it's written in Arabic, you'd think that this would be translated. You'd think that this crucial piece of Tel Kepaye literature wanted to be preserved, for generations to come. So we're really happy to be able to share this with the community. I think it's going to make a lot of sense, both historically, archaeologically, and when it comes to business and merchantism and so on.
Wow, that's interesting.
Go ahead, bro.
Well, I was gonna say it's interesting that they wrote it in Arabic and they didn't write it in Sudan.
That's what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Most people who knew how to write Surah in our community were really the bishops and the priests. And he wasn't a bishop or a priest. He probably obviously knew how to speak Surah, but most of our communities don't even know how to write Surah. I just started learning how to write. None of my aunts and uncles know how to write. So it's actually not that odd. They did know how to write Arabic, obviously, because
And it's possible that they really wanted to blow this book up, and the more people you got reading Arabic, the better. There's probably outsiders that took interest in this type of literature as well. So it was more of like the market language more than the village language. Yeah, that's what we think at least.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's very business of them.
Yeah. Oh, I mean that's kind of like the Keppnaye way,
Yeah.
business and outreach and community building and yeah.
And we'll go through his bio. He's actually was one of these standard-bearing Keppnaye Chaldean business people.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So we'll get into it.
He was also Shamasha too, wasn't he?
And he was a Shamasha. He was
Yeah.
a deacon. Yeah. But he wrote this. I get the feeling he wrote this really to inspire Tel Keppe, Tel Keppnaye that are in diaspora, as well as all the Arabs that were living in Iraq to know who we are. Something that's currently not in Iraq is that they don't teach our history in Iraq. So there's probably a lot of discrimination can occur because there's a lack of knowledge of who we are as indigenous people of Iraq. And
Also, I think it's important to note that this was written in 1937, and Iraq only had become a country in 1932. So this is literally 5 years after Iraq becomes a country. So when you think about the geopolitical climate and what's happening in the country, this guy lived in the age before Iraq became a country. So you don't see a lot of the political brainwashing that starts to take place in the 40s and 50s as we continue to get presidents and so on, and the Islamic Revolution and.
Yeah, but this was also written, over 100 years post church split, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So he's still
almost 400 years.
Yeah.
400 years after the church split, yeah.
So he's still very Chaldean when it comes to the church stuff. But you'll see as we continue to share information from the book, his whole take on his identity and sharing from the history of the region, which is really fantastic.
So what was Iraq before 1932?
It was part of the Ottoman Empire.
Okay.
So after World War I, they split up the Ottoman Empire. And we were actually, the first treaty, with the Treaty of Lausanne, we were offered a Assyrian province that would have covered Tel Keppe, Nineveh, Mosul. But then that treaty was rejected or thrown out because there was an overthrow in the new Turkey government. And they had a new treaty in that our autonomous region was left out. And then when Iraq was formed, in the first year, one reason why I believe he wrote this book was in the first year of Iraq's existence, the Iraqi army went to the north with Kurds to a town called Samele, and the armies were stationed in Mosul, and they were near Tel Keppe, and they were very intimidating to all the Christians. And that occurred in 1933, the Samele massacre of 1933, which is actually recognized today as Assyrian Martyrs' Day, August 7th. And I just to note, also today is a 10-year anniversary of ISIS destroying Tel Keppe. So, discussing this today about who we are is really kind of preserve our culture, because ISIS wanted to destroy our culture. We want to kind of coalesce our community together with our history, and so we can kind of preserve
This
it.
date is a huge date in our culture.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's kind of wild that, we kind of picked this date out of the blue, not really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah,
we
I got
rescheduled
goosebumps,
it because
bro.
I had some other issues, but we rescheduled
Yeah,
it today.
that's crazy.
So
Yeah.
it's almost divine that we're doing this today. This
sure
week.
is.
So,
So
the book outlines the resilience of the Keppnaye specifically, and emphasizes that the Keppnaye were extremely, extremely nationalistic people. They really cared about their city, and that the people that had left and gone abroad, they didn't go there on their own volition, because they were forced to leave. He further shares, but they, the people who have left, belong to Tel Keppe, even though those who abandoned it a century or more ago, it's the birthplace of their fathers and grandfathers. Their departure was not a journey of pleasure or exploration of the unknown, but a forced migration driven by economic desperation. What that tells us is nobody really wanted to leave that place. It was a place where it was their community, it was their home. But because of economic desperation and other political issues, they were forced to leave.
and they were leaving a century before he wrote this book. So you're talking about 1830s.
Yeah.
So emigrating from Tel Keppe has been an ongoing thing, and he does make the point that those who did leave Tel Keppe and maybe went to the west, they always had their eyesight back on the homeland.
Right.
And as he goes, did you read this? Each
go
wave
ahead.
of migration from Tel Keppe tells a story of hardship and survival, reflecting the tenacity of its people. Ties to their homeland remain strong despite the physical distance, as evidenced by the frequent cultural gatherings and communications within the diaspora. And he was writing this in 1937.
So where were the Tel Kepaye going in the 1800s? And you said west, but how far west?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. Probably like Lebanon,
Okay.
Europe, even America, early in America, early 1900s.
We know Mexico they went to.
Right. You're right,
Mexico.
Yeah, you know that the governor of Oaxaca in Mexico is actually Tel Keppnaye?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, his last name
His
is
father
Casa.
was governor too.
Yeah, his last name
Wow.
is Casa, C-A-S-A.
Kasab.
Ay, mierda.
Kasab?
It's Kasab. Yeah, he's
Okay.
a Kasab.
Yep.
He's a Kasab.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
I know the
Kasab.
Kesas and Kasabs are from the same family.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So,
Wow. So so his nationality is Mexican.
yeah, Alex and I thought about paying him a visit,
Bro,
down
let's
to
go,
Mexico,
bro.
yeah.
We'll make some like
Why not?
All right, yeah.
tamale dolmas, bro.
Tel Kepaye trip to Oaxaca, Mexico.
Oh,
Who's
get
in?
way,
Who's
you're-
in?
Yeah, man.
There's a lot of Mexican Chaldeans that are here now.
Yeah,
From
so
Mexico.
a lot of them, they went to Mexico, and then it was a step to come to America.
Yeah, my
And
uncle
even
married-
actually Venezuela, because your fiance is
Fiancé, yes, she's
Venezuela.
Venezuelan,
I
yeah.
had learned that my uncle and aunt went to Venezuela first before they went to Canada.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So
So your fiance could be his cousin.
Potentially. Yeah, bro. This is like
Theoretically.
This is like the Maury show. It's like you are cousins.
we determined that was a lie.
what touched me deeply about this is that, he thought it was so important to memorialize what was happening to our people, and thought it to be of vital importance to let them know who they are, where they're coming from, the importance of keeping the community together. But he talks about the emotional issues, the cultural issues, the importance of keeping the community together, structuring our bonds together, and just wanted to solidify that we are a strong people and we shouldn't lose our sight on the homeland. And I think that really hit me and Alex deeply, especially after going to the homeland, and wanted to bring this book to light.
Mm-hmm.
So even after generations, the emotional and cultural bonds to Tel Keppe are passionately maintained, influencing their identity and daily practices. The stories of Tel Keppe's heroes are not merely tales of adventure, but are imbued with moral lessons that educate and guide the community's youth. And like when you look at our community today, and like how well we do in business in this community, like it just continues on with this even after generations, we still are acting the same way.
Yeah.
I think the problem, like me and Joe see after coming back from Iraq, is we fear that our cultural ties may go away with each generation of more Americans, Chaldean Americans, and so that's why we're here. We want to educate our community in a fun and respectful way, and just be reinvigorated in learning about who they are, maybe learning Surath, studying Surath, how to read and write Surath. I know I've started reading and writing it. It's actually kind of really fun if you're into like.
Where do you do that? Or how do you learn to do that?
I have to credit Bishop Jammo with his books because his co-author, Father Andrew Yun, has done a number of series on YouTube, Chaldean grammar. That's been really good, but also really just being immersed in it and practicing and not being scared to like sound like an American broken.
You got a little accent. That's all right.
So people make fun of me and stuff like that, but now they like know that I'm trying and actually it's picking up and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex calls me every once in a while. So Slam Locho, and I say, Sienna, we're going like 5-10 minutes as long as we can go through the discussion.
Gotcha.
Speaking Surah together, and I've got a number of friends that do that. So you just got to be open to sounding like an idiot for a little bit and get past that fear of not knowing the language. But just like anything else, I speak Arabic and I speak Spanish and I speak Surah and I speak English pretty decently.
Awesome.
And if you don't use it, you'll never learn it.
That's for sure.
It's all repetition. Have you been to any Spanish-speaking countries? You've been to Venezuela?
No, not yet. But I've been to a Spanish-speaking country. I've been to Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And Miami.
Yeah, and there that too. Yeah.
Little Cuba.
But I'm learning. Man, I gotta learn so many languages, bro.
Yep.
Like, cause I gotta learn Spanish to communicate with my fiance, and then I'm like, man, I need to learn Sudeth, cause I'm like, I want to be able to speak like, dialect, like. Ideally, like, I know the Chaldean dialect is different than like the traditional classical Assyrian dialect.
Sure.
Like I know that they did an episode of their podcast where you guys were talking about Mandaeans, like their dialect of Sudeth is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So
we didn't even know they speak Surah.
Yeah.
Bro, isn't that crazy?
Did you know about the Mandaeans?
No clue. First time.
Mandaeans are basically southern Babylonians. So you got Assyria in the north and Babylon in the south.
Okay.
Yeah, they're straight up Babylonians. They're the descendants from the Babylonians, and even their religion preserves astrology that the Babylonians would have practiced.
Wow.
Yeah, but they're more into John the Baptist thing, so their service is baptism.
Gnostic.
Yeah.
But they're also considered Assyrian, right?
No, they're
Babylonian. They call themselves Babylonian.
They're from the south.
They're Babylonian.
They're actually like from Chaldea, if you want to consider that a place.
Yeah.
If you look at ancient maps that say Chaldea, Chaldea would be written the very south of Iraq by Kuwait too, as well around the Persian Gulf.
Yes.
Yeah, Persian Gulf, and that's where a lot of the Mandaean cultures and Mandaean people are from, and they're like there's a marshlands in the south, and that's where
We didn't even know they existed until recently.
and they're a very small population. I think there's like 5,000 people left there, and
there's not a lot, right?
There's like only 500 here. And some would say that they are like the descendants of ethnic Chaldeans from like the Bible.
There are Israeli speaking, Surah speaking people too.
Yeah,
they do.
And a lot of them actually came. Those people, most of them came from Iraq.
Yeah.
After 1950s.
From Zacho, actually.
From Zacho, yeah. Zacho was the Jerusalem of Iraq, or Jerusalem of Assyria.
It's pretty wild. We've got a lot of Surah-speaking people out there that don't identify as Chaldean. So, and we see them all as just one overarching community, kind of separated by either religion or church affiliation.
So when someone says they speak Assyrian, is that Sureth?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like Arabic, there's different dialects,
Right.
right?
So why do they call it Assyrian then? Why do they
Well, this
say
is the
that?
English. This is the English name that they use.
Okay,
In our own
gotcha.
language, we say Sureth.
Yeah.
Ana mechkan Sureth. They would say Ana hamzim min Sureth.
Well, if you
They
want
have
to go
they have
really,
a Tura, the Tura dialect.
yeah, Torah,
It's a mountain
the
dialect.
Yeah.
Whereas we're in the Nineveh plains, the Deshted Ninwe. dialect.
I gotcha.
Yeah, the valleys of Nineveh.
Yeah,
Right.
and then so of course we're closer to Mosul, which we would have had more interaction with Arab community is in the city, which is where I think we got a lot of our business aptitude from. So we do have a lot of Arabic influence, and in their language, in their dialect, they have, because they were around more Persians and Urmia and Iran, they have more Turkish or Iranian Persian influence in their language. But the overall language, they're very, very, very close. And through my studies, I've noticed that they're exact. If you read like, the writing is the exact same words, just the pronunciation may be different based on the dialect.
Yeah, it's like because I've met Assyrians from Iran, and I would like listen to their Sudith, and it's like there's like slight changes, and it's almost like they're speaking Sudith with a French accent.
Persian accent.
Yeah, Persian, yeah. It sounds French to me. It's like you're saying a lot of sounds. Yeah, but it's like it's interesting because like it has there's like a classical. Like, I guess which one would be, because I guess the Chaldean dialect of Sudith does have Arabic influence, and like the Persian, there's like the Persian influence. It's like
Yeah, like Ana Mehki and Surith. Mehki is actually Arab influence. Arabic influence.
Yeah, from Ahki.
Achi, right? Yeah.
Ahki
Yeah.
in the Iraqi dialect, but Ahki would be the everybody else, like Lebanese and Jordanian and
And then for another example, for like Assyrian dialect, when we say Dechiwit, their response, we say Renda, they say spy. Spy is actually a Kurdish word, which is interesting. So
yeah.
it's just a natural progression of languages when you have mix of people.
And over 5,000 years.
Yeah, of course.
yeah.
But our language is very Acadian heavy on our words.
That's
with
Arabic?
Acadian predating
The Assyrian Empire.
The Assyrian Empire.
So you got the Sumerian, Akkadian, Assyrian, Babylonian, in that Mesopotamian region, in that order, I believe.
So the Akkadians have the Akkadian language, and then the Aramaeans brought in the Aramaic writing style, and we adopted the Aramaic writing style, keeping kind of the Akkadian base. And actually, and I could share this with you, but there's I think University of Chicago took Akkadian words and compared it to our words, and like you can see very close transitions, and it's very cool. But like when we say we speak the language of Jesus, Jesus spoke a Galilean dialect of Aramaic.
So you guys know like kubba or kubebe?
Yeah.
You ever had that food?
Sure.
So they would call it kubebu in Akkadian. There's a lot of they would have a lot of U's at the end.
Yeah, and A's in the front.
So exactly.
Yeah.
So we would drop the A's in the front and then drop the U's instead of U would be kubebe.
Kubebe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
Surah,
kubebe is plural.
Exactly.
So their plural is their
Kubeba.
singular.
Yeah.
I don't know the plural grammar in Akkadian.
No, I don't know Acadian either.
You don't know.
Yeah.
What
But you're right,
dialect,
kubebe is.
what dialect of Arabic do Chaldeans speak?
Iraqi dialect of Arabic.
It's Iraqi dialect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would they break it up
But
into
that is
Mosul
actually
and-
closest to Fusha, like closest to the classical. Iraqi would be.
And so if I were to look it up to learn Arabic, what kind of Arabic should
Iraqi.
Iraqi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what
I
if
would.
it doesn't say Iraqi?
Then you're gonna learn Fasha.
I mean, you're gonna learn the Arabi Fusha, which is like the book style of Arabic. but-
Proper grammar.
Yeah,
Proper
grammar.
Classical.
Yeah.
And that's what all our people speak. Like my dad speaks that.
Arabic. He speaks probably Baghdadi
he probably
dialect
speaks a
of
slang of it,
Iraqi
yeah.
Arabic, right?
Yep, Iraqi
And there's like a
Arabic. If you
Mosul
want-
dialect of Iraqi
Okay.
Arabic.
I've got like a 400-page PDF on modern Iraqi dialect Arabic. I can give it to you.
And like the
Yeah,
difference
yeah.
between Iraqi Arabic, here's like one major difference that I've noticed. Iraqi Arabic is obviously more original versus like Lebanese or Egyptian dialects. And one like they don't say qab, but like Kalbi is heart, my heart. They'll say Elbi. They don't say the Q letter. What's the Q
Yeah,
letter?
we say Galbi.
Galbi,
and,
Galbi. Yeah, Galbi.
Kelbi's the dog.
Galbi, yeah.
Or Qalbi.
Qalbi.
With a,
Oh,
Qalbi
Qalbi, okay.
would
Yeah.
be for my heart.
Gotcha.
Like maybe in like a Jordanian dialect.
Yeah.
But in Syrian, Lebanese, and Egyptian would be Elbi.
Qalbi, okay.
Yeah, they kind of softened everything up.
Yeah, bro.
That's kind of the
Syrian,
French.
not
It's like it's that soft ass
It's
Egyptian
Syrian,
shit, bro.
yeah.
Right?
What's that?
It's that soft Egyptian shit. They're like
Exactly.
singing.
Yeah.
They're like
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
their breakups and like.
They can't say
Totally.
our like Iraqi Arabic is much tougher, like more
Yeah,
more
yeah.
aggressive.
It
in
is.
this, yeah.
It is. We've been through a lot. You kind of have to be a little rough around the edges. You know what I mean?
So getting back to our conversation, to circle back on Yousif Jammo. You know, he was born in 1892 and died in 1965. And he's recognized as a historian. And even Father Bazzi, who's written a number of our books on Tel Keppe, recognizes him as an historian. And he's been quoted as one of the brightest and most fragrant faces that the Chaldean people have produced in our current era. He was the first to chronicle his beloved town, Tel Keppe. He was educated in Basra. He received an American University legal certificate. So I feel like us as attorneys, it's kind of where we can kind of relate a little bit. And not only that, I mean, he was very involved in our community. He was the only Christian elected to the 1936 Palestinian Defense Committee in Iraq. I don't know, what that looked like or something. I couldn't find as much information on it, but still very interesting that even in the Iraqi system, he's been viewed as a prominent Christian leader. And even in Basra, he established the first printing press, which is probably why he wrote this book, because he had a printing press called The People's Voice. He survived assassination attempts in 1937.
Assassination attempt?
Nazi extremists burned his printing press down.
In 1941.
And his printing press kept opening and closing. So he was a very resilient person, just like how our community is very resilient in business and stuff like that. So
Are they trying to kill him?
yeah, and he got into a...
Did the bullet graze his ear too?
Well, he turned his head and looked at the prop, but...
Divine
Probably held
intervention.
the book up. And
That's crazy.
But he did die in a car accident in 1965.
Wow. What kind of car? Like, was it like a hit and run?
that I don't think we have the
That, yeah.
information on, but it would be interesting.
Maybe
to know.
car accident.
73 years old.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent life for somebody from that period of time.
Oh, yeah. That's long.
Yeah.
And even he came to America for some time, and after wrote a book called 6 Months in America. I haven't been able to find that book, but if an audience
How do you know?
member,
How do you know he wrote it then?
there's some bios out there on the internet that
Okay.
people have written. So.
All right.
And, like we
And
said-
also the 1993 reprint, they added some more of this information in there.
shit.
Yeah. So, and it's surprising when they reprinted it. I'm surprised that they didn't translate it to English.
Yeah.
You know, in 1993, like a lot of us were coming in here too, but just
The community's been slacking for too many years here.
where's our
How does
Seward
this
school?
just
Where's
come
our
to light
Seward
now?
school? Do we have a Seward school?
No, man.
No, but we got a few.
But the thing is, bro, we have so much money. That's why, like, I keep thinking, I was like, man, we're so successful. Like, you know, my parents were opened a liquor store, were able to put us all through college. Then we have all this money, and then it's just like, all right, I'm just gonna buy a fucking big ass house. I'm just gonna buy this thing, and it's like, yeah, it's like using, and it's like, obviously people have money to invest in something that can like preserve the culture, but I guess it's like, that's what needs to be done.
You know what I think? There's a lot of trauma in our community. Imagine having to leave a place that you called home and have to rush to America and then struggle to be something, because you're not going to come to a country and not make a name for yourself. Otherwise, you know, this was kind of a waste of time.
Especially
I
America.
mean, that's a great excuse for 2 weeks, but we've been here for how many years?
No, we agree.
40, yeah, we agree. I
That's why
know.
we're taking matters in our own hands.
Yeah,
here.
that's why we're here
Trying to
today.
bring it all in and say,
Right.
hey, we're comfortable. We've got doctors, lawyers, engineers, comedians, business owners. We're doing
endless.
really well.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be in the survival mode anymore.
Yeah.
We need to think about thriving and preservation at this point. Otherwise, we're going to be like your Italian and Irish neighbors that never been to Italy or Ireland and don't know how to make pasta and don't speak Italian or Irish.
Yeah.
You understand? We don't want to be like those people, to be honest with you. All due respect to them, but it's like
It's like they're successful. It's like, cool,
yeah,
bro.
that's
Cool
great.
story.
But you're going to be homogenized like everybody else. And like this is the beauty of the world, is we've got a really vibrant community. We have an amazing history. And
Amazing
we're indigenous basically to the world. We brought civilization to the world. We brought law to the world. The concept of human beings working together, not individual, but working together to create cities, irrigation systems, agriculture, and inventions like the wheel, astrology,
Beer, battery.
beer. You know how we came up
Wow.
with the name beer? Beer is just a name for well. Bera.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a name for a well.
Assyrians created beer?
Women. Yeah, women.
Yeah.
A
Assyrian
woman?
came, yeah.
The first 40 ounce?
I think by accident, though. I think
First
by
Old
accident.
English?
It's all English. It was old opera. Yeah.
I think it was by accident. I think they left some fruit down there too long, and it fermented. And then when they went to go get
Yeah,
the
or
water,
rice.
they got drunk.
They're like, yo,
The
this is
grains,
fire.
yeah.
Yeah.
The grains. They threw it in the barrels and
Yeah.
it fermented. And poof,
Yeah.
there you go. So and
But
even the
yeah.
women were the ones who created the writing system. They were at home writing and preserving everything because the men were traveling and selling goods and doing merchant stuff and working the fields and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
so a lot of women actually in the ancient history, in our history, were very prominent in a lot of the inventions.
He further says that the people of Tel Keppe are one of those people who have blood flowing through their veins, the blood of kings and princes who were masters of the world in their time. And also running through their blood is manhood, chivalry, fatherhood, generosity, and self-esteem. And this is kind of the cornerstone of our culture. You know, I believe we are some of the most generous people in the world. Judging by the great level of success that we've seen in our community, both individually and collectively, self-esteem is very high. And I think one of the things that we don't think about, because we cut our history off basically on the brink of Christianity, is we have royal blood in us that ruled the world for thousands of years. And I think it's one of those situations where we need to have more pride, healthy pride, right? Being proud of who you are and being able to share that with people. I was in court today, and it came up about my Iraq trip. Some fellow attorney had seen some of my adventures and wondering when I was going next. And I was sharing with her some of these things, and she goes, I had no idea. I got so many Chaldean friends, and nobody's ever told me anything like this. And I told her, it's because nobody really knows. They don't know what to look for.
You know, it was very disappointing, and I would love to just take like our energy and direct it towards, you know, we just got to redirect our energy towards like preserving our culture and doing some of the things that haven't been done. And like, what's sad is like when you see like the counsel for President Trump go on stage who's a Chaldean Catholic and doesn't even utter the word Chaldean. There's kind of a disconnect that I think we need to really kind of fix.
I don't think she knows.
Exactly.
I don't
So
think
you
she
know, she may not, but
I also heard that she's selectively saying not Chaldean in order to reach a wider audience, because you can say Iraqi and that means more.
But it only takes a second to say Chaldean.
Wow.
I agree. But
Yeah.
and this is the problem. So like this is kind of the problem. Like me and Joe see.
I mean, Trump said Chaldean, right?
He did.
paid him $1 million. Yeah.
Well, so he said it.
They
But
did?
I don't
They
know.
didn't pay him to say that? No.
You just got to get a hold of.
You pay any of the
Bro,
politicians,
you-
they'll say
you-
it. But I mean, like, part of it is like we want everyone to feel proud for our history, and you know, if you do come from Arab world, you want to say you're Arab, but also you're a Chaldean Catholic. Like uttering the word Chaldean would have been immense for our community, just because the thousands and millions of people who are watching that would have Googled Chaldean probably after that speech.
Well, you know what? I was working when I released my special in last year, and I re-released it on YouTube. And I hired this big PR company. So this PR company, they work with like top comics. Like they work with like Theo Von, Matt Rife, Whitney Cummings. They worked with like biggest comedians. And I was like, I want to get a big firm so I can really give this the look that it deserves.
Yeah.
And I was talking to them, and they're like, why are you saying you're Chaldean Assyrian? Like, first of all, like, this is too confusing. Just say you're from Iraq. Just say you're from Iraq. Just say you're Arab. It'll cast a wider net. There's way more Arabs. She goes, I Googled Assyrian, and there's like 5 million of you in the world. And I don't even know how accurate that number is. Just say you're Iraqi. And I told her, I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not going to do that. And and I told her why I didn't want to do that. And I was like, because I like at a certain point, it's like, yeah, the business move might have been, say you're Iraqi.
Sure.
And you know what? She is right. But she's in the business of business. And I made a conscious decision where I was like, I don't want to do that. Like,
Good for you.
I could be making I could have been working with my brother as a lawyer. I could have been doing shows for companies and organizations that I don't really believe in, don't want to be attached to. But I'm like, this like means something to me. So I was like, I want to make sure I say I am Assyrian.
Yeah.
Ethnicity Assyrian. And then if I have the opportunity, I want to continue to dive in and talk about being Chaldean Assyrian and what that means. But like, I want to say I'm Assyrian. And then she was just like, okay, that's fine. Go ahead. My manager's like, you should really. And I'm like, no, bro. My manager's, she's Persian. You know what I mean? She's Persian, so like she gets it. You know,
Does
like
she say she's Iranian, or does she say she's Persian?
she said she's Persian, bro. She
Well,
even
she-
wears.
Yeah, it's like, why do you say you're Persian? There's no Persian
Yeah,
anymore.
She says
there's
she says
Iranian.
Persian.
There's no Persian. There's
She
no
goes-
Persian. So
it's sort of the same thing
It's
as
the
like
same exact
Assyrian.
thing.
There's no Assyria. There's Iraq.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, but she says I am Persian. You know what I mean? She says she's Persian.
because that's their ethnicity.
she
Iranian
don't
would
wanna
be
say
their
Arab.
nationality.
Right.
Yeah.
She don't want people to think
Well,
she's
Iranians
Arab.
aren't Arab. That's the thing.
really?
So like the
Okay.
cutoff is really at the east of Iraq. But you know the nation, just like I'm American, that's my nationality. It's I'm part of this nation. But like Persian is their ethnicity, you know, versus Iranian would be a nationality. Iraqi
Yeah.
would be a nationality. Like I don't like personally, I don't see a problem with people saying I'm Assyrian Iraqi because you're defining like more because Iraq is the nation. Just like I say, I'm Chaldean American or Chaldean Assyrian American.
What's the Assyrian elevator pitch to people that don't know what Assyrian is? And then what's the Chaldean elevator pitch that people can use?
Why don't you tell your story
Which one?
about who told you about being Assyrian? The pitch.
Oh, you mean the Catholic Assyrians from Iraq? That?
No, when you first learned about being Assyrian.
Oh, like what I said on stage?
Yeah,
Man, so
you went to
it's
like a
hilarious.
convention or something like that, right?
You say, yeah. So I started doing shows and I started like traveling around, and then people are like, so where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm Chaldean, and my parents are from Iraq, and they're like, oh, you're Assyrian, and I'm like, what? Like I think I was like 26 at the time, and I've never heard anyone say you're Assyrian.
Yeah.
Ever. It's my first time. So I was like, what does this mean? So I started doing some research. I started talking to people, and I started doing more of a deep dive. And I was like, wow, I am ethnically Assyrian. And it's interesting because my whole life, I was told I was one thing. And turns out I'm a totally different person inside. So I know what it's like to be trans.
Right.
You know
Congratulations.
what I mean? Like I've been trans-ethnic.
Yeah. There you go.
You know what I mean? And I was telling them, it's crazy because I was going back to my family and I'm just like, guys, I'm Assyrian. And they're like, look what California did.
Yeah.
You see what it did?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
So you educated your family on this?
yeah, but even still, my mom is just like, you know, basically it's like what we were talking about in that X thing that we did on Twitter. It's just like a lot of the older folks are just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I've been telling myself, like my mom has a hard time getting a new remote because she's so used to this one remote that's so old that has tape all over it. I'm like, it looks like a nightstick, and she uses that, but she doesn't want to change anything. So it's like, if she's like, how am I going to get her to change and understand her identity a little deeper?
Well, I think the older people are not really invested in homeland stuff. They're thinking, we're here, that's it. We've done our job. We brought you to a place of safety. You guys are doing very well. You've got businesses and stuff. Just kind of forget about that thing because I did too. So
Yeah,
there's no
they've seen the horror though
benefit.
firsthand. That's the
Some
that's the
did, some
difference.
didn't though. Some just left because they wanted to avoid the draft of any impending war, and some people just left out of convenience because their brothers and sisters are already here, and although they didn't see any hardship, we're community-oriented people. They're not going to stay in a place where they got nobody.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's very multifaceted. Some people leave because they want to. Some people leave because everybody else has left, and some people did actually escape persecution. But there's no one-size-fits-all reason for why our people left.
Yeah, and we're not being persecuted here, so now we should take this opportunity to really dive in and promote our culture and spread
Exactly.
our culture,
We're in a very
spread our
comfortable
views
place.
and stuff like that. And you know, there was a lot of tragedy and trauma. Our like older generation definitely has a lot of trauma from back home.
The other thing is,
which definitely is involved, like part of the situation, part of the reason why we're like over here, obviously. But we got now that we're in America, we've been so successful. We got to take advantage of this.
we're at basically a turning point where if we don't do something, we're going to lose everything.
Yeah.
You know, if we don't start making learning Surah a very cool thing to do and speaking amongst ourselves, you know, like Hebrew was almost an extinct language until they revived it. But if you meet anybody who speaks Hebrew, any Jew or anybody else who speaks Hebrew just for fun, and you tell them that you speak Surah, Ashurit is what they'll call it, which is really funny because Ashur is the name for Assyria, and the language is Ashurit, and ours is Surat. So the A got knocked out in what we say, and Shah became an S, so we call it Surath.
Yep.
And there's a Phoenician tablet where there's a Luwian and Phoenician inscription. One says Ashurai for Assyrians, and the other one says Surai
Yeah.
So there were two empires that made the same inscription, translated in their own language, that show that Ashurai, which is Assyrian in English, and Surai, which is Assyrian, and what we call ourselves in our language,
Yep.
both mean the same thing, which is Assyrian. So why are you calling yourself a Suraya? Now the church has said that that means Christian, which is completely false. We have a word for Christian in our language, and that's Mshihaya, from Mshiha. Isha
Mshiha.
Mshiha?
Yeah.
You've heard that before, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mshihaya is
It's in the prayer.
like a messianic Christian, somebody who believes in the Messiah. That's our word for Christian. So Suraya doesn't mean Christian. It means somebody who is from Assyria. And consequently, that's where the word Surya, which is Syria, comes from. It's from Assyria. They just gave it that name.
Yeah, the Romans, they dropped the A to, and they would say Surya.
Just like Iraq
Yeah.
comes from the word Uruk, which is the first civilization, first Sumerian civilization where writing was invented. That's where the word Iraq comes from. It's from Uruk. And I was there. I actually went to that ancient archaeological site. Super cool.
Very cool.
So many temples and everything's just buried in time. And you see wheelbarrows that they have little railroad tracks where the Germans were digging up archaeological ruins. They're literally still there, like all rusted in time.
And
in Sumeria, which
Wow.
is southern Iraq.
this is where
And
ISIS
Nasiriya.
did not destroy.
Oh, they destroyed and they looted for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but the ruins are still there, and there are still some things in cuneiform. They're just not big enough to take to a museum because they want the nice big juicy stuff. You know,
Right.
They don't want the little, couple little cuneiform carvings.
Have either of you been to the Chaldean Cultural Center?
I have.
And how authentic is that?
I haven't been there to
Really?
give an opinion.
It's-
I've actually emailed them as a request to come in, but I never got a response.
Yeah, you
now,
gotta make
now
an
that I
appointment
think,
to
now
go.
that I think about, yeah, you have to
can't-
email them.
Yeah. If you, we have an episode on it, on the Keeping Up with Chaldeans.
Okay.
Yeah, we run through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Mark was there.
I was.
Yeah.
We should check that out. It's been a few years since I went, and since then I've kind of expanded my historical knowledge a little bit, so I wasn't quite as discerning with
Right,
what
right.
material's in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I guess they're moving it to
Yeah.
Walnut Lake and Inkster.
yeah, their new location.
So let's.
Which is really
hopefully
cool.
they expand it and.
Yeah, we should do an episode there.
I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Yeah,
Is it Wiam that runs that place?
it's
I
the
believe so.
foundation, right?
Yeah, yeah. She's a
Well, the new
she's a
building is going to be at
wonderful
the foundation, and then Rian one runs the cultural center specifically. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll start with. So circling back, in this book, Jammo talks about who are the Tel Kepaye, who they are. He's trying to promote it to the new Iraq country that just formed. He says, in their original homeland, by which I mean the town of Tel Keppe, or the city of Tel Keppe, as it was called, because Jammo views Tel Keppe not as a village or town, but more as a city, because the amount of people that came in from different villages, Hakkari, Tur Abdin, Urmia, Ashitha, it was really more like Tel Keppe was more of like a city versus,
It was a hub.
yeah.
And a fortress at that, especially in ancient times, which we're going to touch on in a little bit.
Do you know the population from, say, in the 1800s to the 1850, 1950, 2000, like,
I believe we had 1,100 families or 700 families in 2013 in Tel Keppe.
so you're saying 1,300 families to the
In
the
about
general
1800s,
audience. They don't know they each had 12 kids.
Yeah, 1800.
Yeah.
In the 1800s, the population of Tel Keppe was around 20,000 people.
Okay.
And
a lot.
that was before 1845 for a town. That's a big town. That's
it's a lot.
20,000 people. I mean, it's bigger than many towns here in Michigan. That was, and I'm quoting Maria Theresa Asmar, a Babylonian princess. She wrote a book, and that was right before Mongolian invasion, in like 1845, around there, which I
Okay.
think caused that. But through our history, Tel Keppe has always had some population that was always there. People would leave. That population always persisted. So imagine if the population over the last 200 years was 5,000 people. All of them are having 10 kids,
Yeah.
6 kids, 7 kids. Where are those people going? They're emigrating. So how many Tel Kepaye? Now we have maybe 100,000, 200,000 Tel Kepaye here? in
it's
Detroit.
more than that.
We got about
We
200,000
could
Chaldeans
have
here.
more than that.
Yeah.
I think it includes like El Koshnai and Zakonai, but just here in Detroit area, we got like 100,000 easy. And it's just really interesting to see how we've like sprung up
Yeah.
from just this town
Yeah.
in northern Iraq, you know.
Wasn't it
And now
from 7 families or so? Like the Chaldean, I'm sorry, Tel Keppe was
Seven.
kind of made up of 7
There,
families, or
I haven't heard that, but
Okay.
maybe there's 12 quarters,
maybe that's what
and
it
there's
is.
each one has like name. Like there's a Shangu quarter,
Yep,
Abru
yep,
quarter,
Yep, yep.
Marshmuni quarter.
And it was 12?
I think there's 12 of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We weren't going to get into that today, but
Okay.
we can. The second half
Sure, no, go
that we
ahead.
have will be about
Yeah, yeah.
demographics and culture and families, where we have families from. I'll
Okay.
have actually organized where all the families, many of our families have come from, to see
It's
where,
pretty
where
wild.
they originated before they came to Tel Keppe.
Very cool.
And I think Father Bazzi has actually put a lot of that together.
So I had, before we move on, like you mentioned Hebrew almost being an extinct language until they revived it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
recently too.
What was the blueprint to that?
Oh.
And how can we duplicate it?
Well, we're not in the same situation as them.
Okay.
They actually used our language to revive their language. So when they revived, the Hebrew revival occurred, many people, they first went to the Torah and the Bible, the Old Testament and the Talmud for their word base. So anything that they had from there, they extracted. Then they looked at, when they needed other words to fill in, let's say, the verb to have, that maybe didn't have it or whatever, just as an example, they extracted it from our language. And if they didn't get it from our language, they then extracted it from Yiddish. So their writing is called Kithawa Ashuret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gave it to them.
Right.
Our language is so influential in the world, it's unbelievable. The children of our language are Hebrew, Arabic. You can even, and then we've influenced Arabic so much that Arabic is 8% of Spanish language. The Mongolian writing is in our language. Russians use words in our language. Stikhan is Russians use Stikhan. Stikhan, we gave it to them.
You know,
Our
we've got
alphabet-
communities in Russia too.
Alphabet comes from
for
our
at least the
our
last
alphabet.
100 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, alphabet is Elep Beth. That's Elep is for A, the letter A, and Beth is the letter B. So the word alphabet comes from the names for the letter A and the letter B.
Player.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, fam.
So
And
many
those
things come
letters-
from our language.
Those letters, they're the alphabet, all the full letters are based off our language, and that affects French, English, Spanish, German, every Latin, Romance
Yes, our
language.
fingerprints are all over.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
But we feel if our people actually knew this stuff, that they'd go tell all their friends, and then their friends would react and be like, "Wow, this is amazing!" And then
Yeah.
our people would be like, "Yeah, it is. I got to delve into this more."
Yeah.
And then this is how we can inspire our people to take more interest in preserving this, because it can be fun, it can be deeply historical and connecting to your roots. You're going to have a lot more things to talk about with your parents now. You might be able to, form stronger bonds with your aunts and uncles, because now they're like, "Oh, wow, you get me on a level that you weren't able to get me before because you're too busy being an American."
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's really about creating and healing bonds with our families, and going back to the homeland, maybe assisting our people in the homeland, and pumping some money into tourism. And then you used to go out there and you see opportunities. It's like, well, instead of opening up something here, I can open up a Mecca over there. I said, get somebody involved over there to manage and things, and it's like you're helping the people, and you're also growing your empire as well. It could be a very, and what inspired me in that is when I went to the Chaldean villages in Mardin, which is the Turabdin region of Turkey, because as you know, Mesopotamia is lower Turkey, western Iran, eastern Assyria, and then the top half of Iraq. Most of Iraq, but mainly the top half was like Mesopotamia. And Turkey invited a lot of the Surai that had fled, went to Germany or Sweden or France, invited them back in the 1990s and early 2000s to come back there, because the Kurds were just messing things way. They're, kind of dirtying things up and not really providing much to the economy. That says, we need to get these Christians back. So everybody went and built mansions there, opened up pizza shops and doctors' clinics. And when you go there, it's like cobblestone streets and huge vineyards, and it's really beautiful. It's like, wow, if we did this in our homeland, we could be in a way different place.
Yeah.
Way different place. And you have to have a presence there. You need to invest there, and then you can start talking. We can get security and so on. But there is a vision for this. You got to believe, and if you don't believe, then you're not going to find a way. And if you don't find a way, nothing gets done.
Real talk.
So that's kind of like the overall 50-year plan.
Yeah. But to take it to a granular level, maybe an individual level, I'm just speaking for my experience, and I know many people in our community are in this boat. Like me growing up, speaking with my grandparents who spoke no English was very tough. And, it drove me, you want to have a closer relationship with your grandparents, of course. And so that always pushed me to try and learn Surat, and even I take Arabic lessons, and now I actually can have full conversations with not full, but nice conversations with my grandparents.
They have stories that you're never going to hear from anywhere else.
Yeah.
No story in the world is ever going to match the story that you can get from your grandparents.
Yeah.
You can never replicate it, and you can only hear it from them. So I think it's important. I lost all my grandparents, as of 10 years ago. And I tell anybody who still has grandparents, and maybe if you've got some listeners out here, spend as much time as you can with your grandparents, ask them all the questions, do all the recordings, interview them, ask them what their life was like, because they lived in a completely different world, and those stories you're never going to hear from anywhere else. And they're yours. They're part of your family. They're part of who made, what made you who you are.
Yeah.
So,
man, my mom would translate, so my mom would tell me some things my grandpa would say, and man, he said, he was working as a merchant, so he would travel, he would cut wheat, and then he'd put it on a donkey and then take it back to the village and sell it in the bazaar or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, so he cut a bunch of wheat, and then he'd go travel, and someone robbed him. And they're like, we're taking the donkey, taking the wheat. So he got off, and the donkey wouldn't move. The guy's trying to get him to move, he wouldn't move. And he goes, look, how about this? Let's just go together, and I'll just give you a ride back. And whatever I make, whatever you want, bro, I'll give you what you need if you need help.
Yeah.
And they bonded. They bonded with this guy that tried to fucking rob him. Really? And I'm like, did he beat his ass up?
That's the kind of effect we, as our community, has on people like that.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, yeah.
And then I was like, can you ask Baba Jinju, what were they talking about the whole time? And then my mom would ask him, and he goes, oh, and then I see his face and his body change, and he's saying some story with so much passion.
Yeah.
And he goes, the guy was complaining about his wife the whole time.
And that's why I decided to steal from you. Yeah. She wanted a bigger house, and he's like, how the hell am I going to make this happen?
Yeah, exactly.
There's some guy with some wheat. Bingo.
Yeah, and that's the story of the first dispensary, actually. Yeah.
Is your grandpa still alive?
No, he passed away 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any grandparents left?
No, none.
You?
I have 3.
Wow.
Yeah, he's really lucky.
yeah.
Do you?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't. I never met my dad's dad, or my mom's mom.
I'd do anything to bring my grandparents back. They're
Yeah.
wonderful people, and your family starts to take a different shape after all your grandparents are gone. They're the kind of the glue that holds everything together, and you've got to work 10 times as hard to get the family together
Yep.
and keep things going, because
That's where you used to gather.
Christmases and Easters, yeah, exactly. It's always at grandma's house. So, but those stories, you can never get them anymore. So, I hope this inspires somebody to go out there and have these conversations with their grandparents.
Yeah, and record it.
Record
you
it.
said.
We should bring a bunch on here. If
Yeah.
any listeners want to invite their grandparents here.
Yeah.
So,
My friend,
stories, right? That'd be cool.
I brought my dad, my 2 uncles, and one of my aunts. The rest are passed. Well, I have another aunt that's not passed away, but she couldn't make it that day. And we had it's a
I think I
Qashamoon
saw it.
episode, where they talk about some stories from back in the day and where growing up in Tel Keppe and stuff like that. It's kind of fun, very fun.
Such simpler times. One of my buddies was taken to Iraq in 1990 something when he was 4 or 5 years old with his family, and he showed me a video from 1992 or 3, and he's just a few years old, and they're out in some vast park in the mountains. This is Chris. And there's Dawla Zarna with the when they take the bride out of the house.
Yeah.
And usually that's when you're going to see that. These people, they had those guys there just for fun,
for the heck
just
of
on a
it.
random,
Yeah.
And no phones, obviously, because this is in the 90s, you know, and everybody's dancing. There must have been 2,000 people. You could see the shaky camera footage and very blurry and so on. And everybody's just having a ball. You got people sitting over there and on their picnic, set up their tapestry on the ground, and they're drinking and laughing, having fun and drinking chai, and everybody's dancing.
So there was no bride and groom?
No,
walking through?
this is just a festival. This is just to get, you know, like you want to call the guy with the drum and the horn? We're going to go have a party in the park.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Cool.
It was amazing. I'm like, we need to do more of that. And these dances, we've been dancing for thousands of years. That's the other really beautiful thing.
Like the higga?
Yeah, the higga. That's what I found so fascinating about our culture. We danced before war. We danced at celebrations like, you know, communions, baptisms, weddings.
Yeah.
And I thought it really interesting. We brought this up at another podcast, and I think it's important to repeat again.
This is awesome.
Is that we thought it was important not to dance individually. We thought it important to hold each other's hands, and I think that's exemplary of the importance of community in our people. That you've got, and you're going in the same direction. What's that mean? You don't have a guy going this way and this way either. You're going to break up the line dance, you know. But you're going in the same direction, holding hands in unison. And I just thought it was really beautiful.
Either?
Yeah, either, hand in hand.
Wow.
You know, and I think it's really, really important to emphasize how our ancestors were thinking when they developed these things.
Not just hand in hand, step by step.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
step by
that's
step.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
it's crazy.
And they have
But
carvings.
found it like that.
And they
Yeah.
have carvings of these dances.
Yep.
Archaeological, what do they call them, steles or whatever?
Steles, yeah.
Steles,
People doing
yeah.
like the higga?
Holding
Yeah,
hand,
yeah.
doing the
Yeah,
figure,
yeah.
yeah. In ancient
Thousands
Assyrian.
of years ago. So if there's one thing that connects us to our ancestry aside from language, it's our music.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And now you got a lot of people learning how to dance Shekhani, Yakura, Bagia on street.
Jennifer
language.
Gumma, the chair of the social committee at Shenandoah, put together classes for young and old, all ages.
Oh, amazing.
Like a 8-week kind of program.
Nice.
Oh, that's crazy.
Incredible. The other thing people don't know, we've
If
got
we had a school,
30
we could do it all in the school, you know.
Yeah.
30 documented dances. 30 choreographed.
30?
Yeah, 30.
Really?
We only dance maybe 2, 3 at every wedding, but we got 30 of them.
Where do you find this list?
I found a PDF called 30 Assyrian folk dances.
Okay.
And I used to teach the dance lessons for a group called Irutha, which means awakening in Surat. When we first started, I was in Oakland University. I think this was like circa 2009.
No shit.
Yeah, so we did a bunch of dance performances, and we got a bunch of the folk outfits from back home, and danced, dressed everybody up and danced for people.
With the feather in the cap?
Some of the outfits had that. Some of them, for Keppnaye outfits and Al-Qushdai. So we try to include like all the villages, because everybody's got their own style. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool indeed.
To continue on with Jammo, he was an attorney who has a legal certificate. Probably the first attorney in our community, now that I think about it.
Really?
But, as
What
of
about,
right
what
now,
about Hammurabi, man?
well, he was a king.
All right.
So he was making the laws, not debating the laws.
Fair enough.
Or arguing the laws.
Somebody had to start somewhere there.
Yeah.
Right.
So in this book, he goes, it has been proven with the evidence that I've mentioned, according to the information I have, the people of Tel Keppe are the original inhabitants of Tel Keppe and Nineveh, as the inheritors of Nineveh and the rest of its remains. And I think one thing to keep in mind is, I view that like Tel Keppe is Nineveh. It became Nineveh after the fall of Nineveh.
Like Nineveh is like the
And that
whole-
Tel Keppe is one part of Nineveh, like Metro Nineveh. And we're definitely going to
So
get
why
into
don't you
that.
share with the people who don't know what Nineveh or Ninue is?
Nineveh was the capital of the Assyrian Empire until its fall by Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuchadnezzar in 612 BC. And
Right.
our village Tel Keppe is 9 miles north of Nineveh.
And it's built on a fortress.
Like downtown Nineveh, you consider it 9 miles north. Tel Keppe is 9 miles north of Nineveh.
Yeah, so Nineveh is like Metro Detroit,
But yeah,
and
if you
Tel
think-
Keppe is like Detroit.
No, really, like Nineveh. would
Tel
be-
Keppe would be like Detroit's on 8 Mile.
Yeah.
We're like just 7, 8 mile.
Yeah.
Karemlesh and Bechdata is like, Mexican town?
But-
kind of
but-
gross,
but- but still part of-
still part of Detroit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Although Detroit isn't the capital of Michigan, whereas Nineveh is the capital of Assyria.
Right.
But if you take Detroit to be the capital and you think about its metropolis, that's the way it would work.
Right.
You know, Tel Keppe was probably like the Birmingham, if you want to talk, think about it
Ah,
that way.
yeah. It's like Birmingham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 9 miles away. Mm-hmm. You know,
You talking size or
just the concept.
development?
Concept and development. It's a bustling city. It's just outside
Okay.
the capital.
If you're thinking about like Chicago, maybe a little bit easier. You have downtown area in Chicago. You got Lincoln Park in
That's
Chicago.
so big.
Nineveh was very big
was
too.
Very big.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Nineveh was very big.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, we're gonna look at maps.
Probably bigger than Chicago.
We're gonna look at maps
Yeah.
too and talk about its
All right.
size. Yeah, Nineveh was about 200 square miles. And
200?
yeah, according to Henry Layard apparently. But to continue on, the people of Tel Keppe, known as Tel Keppnaye, are historically a group with deep roots in the region. They are Chaldean Catholic Christians who trace their lineage and traditions back to ancient times. Tel Keppe was a prominent center, home to influential leaders and a strong community structure. Tel Keppnaye have a rich history of heroism, cultural practices, and community governance. They have suffered humiliation after humiliation for long centuries, just as the inhabitants of this country, Mesopotamia, forgot the humiliation and humiliation at the hands of foreign peoples for long centuries until they forgot the history of their ancestors. And by converting them from paganism to Christianity, religion stabbed their sting, so the roughness that they had was gone from them.
Wow, we've talked about this before. In a sense, Christianity has been really amazing for our people. It's allowed us to preserve our language, but at the same time, we've kind of lost that healthy, aggressive, nationalism, because it's like, oh, turn the other cheek. There's a lot of pacifism, which is not real Christianity. If you read the Bible, it tells you to stand up and fight for what you believe in, as long as it's aligned with divine truth. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, even Yousif Jammo says this. By converting them from paganism to Christianity, religion stabbed their sting, and the roughness that we had in us was gone from us. And then, if you multiply that by decades, you obviously see the impact of that. Not blaming Christianity for why we're in the position we're in, but when you cut us off from our pagan past and kind of, religion is a mindset at the same time. You got paganism as a certain sort of collective consciousness, and so is, Christianity, a different type of consciousness. It's going to have its impact, and obviously it has had its impact on us.
But you're saying a positive, right? Positive impact?
I think mostly positive, of course, but when it comes to pacifism and not being able to take up arms and fight for yourselves and things like that, we're going to suffer as a community, as a nation.
Yeah, I mean, this came up a lot when there was the stabbing of the in Australia.
Yeah.
Marmari.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that came up where it's I think it's hilarious using Andrew Tate as an example. Just I find him so interesting, but he was just he was mentioning that Christians and Catholics are soft. He's like, you guys are soft. You guys should stand up and do something.
He's Muslim too, though.
Yeah,
But-
Muslim.
but-
Yeah.
he's
By the way,
Muslim.
our
Yeah, but
previous-
he used to be Christian though, I think.
His brother is Christian.
Yeah.
His brother is
His
Catholic,
brother's still Catholic.
devout Catholic, and he's a Muslim. But I find it kind
He'll be
of
back.
offending to be, Muslim saying this towards
No,
Christians.
he'll be back.
He'll be back.
I think
He'll be back. Yeah.
The other thing, though, bishops and patriarchs used to take up arms and fight for our nation, though. This is as of 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So there wasn't this concept of, we're just big pacifists.